The person that turns me off on LinkedIn
Yeah.
is the person who immediately will request a connection.
Mm.
And the first thing that they do is say, here's how you can buy something from me. Who is it in our past that could have been valuable, but maybe not at that particular moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or who can I provide value to now? There have been relationships that have been established through Queen City that have changed also my trajectory of my business.
Denola, I have finally got you on Talks on Demand. How are you doing, Queen?
I am doing well, Queen. I'm so excited to be here.
Denola, listen, this is long overdue. You have been the woman on the move. We've got Denola Burton. So before we get into this conversation around how to build powerful connections that take us to the next level, that help us succeed, I have to give this woman her flowers, you all. So we have with us today, all the way from Indiana, Denola Burton, who is the founder and CEO of Enhanced DNA. And by the way, that stands for Develop, Nurture, Achieve. We also have Denola, who holds a bachelor and master's of science degree in biology. And here's a little fun fact about Denola, okay? She actually transitioned into human resources as a certified professional in human resources after first considering and being in a career as a scientist. Oh, I can't wait to hear more about that story. Today, Denola is a certified disc behavioral coach. What? A coach with the John Maxwell team, a publicist. She's helped so many women and men publish their books, not just women, right? Men and women. But she's most importantly a wife, a mother, and a businesswoman. Y'all give it up for Denola Burton on Talks on Demand. I feel like we need some.
You make me sound so exciting. Oh my goodness.
I feel like we need some
Yeah.
theme music, right? So, Denola, welcome to Talks on Demand. I want to get into this because we've all been watching you. We know you from Queen City Women in Business, and we see you from afar, and you are constantly building relationships. And so, we couldn't wait to have you on this show. I want to start. I want to start with a hard question, right? It's probably not hard
Uh-oh.
for you, but I know Denola's like, man, you didn't even warm me up. But I want to start with understanding who your people are. Does it matter, Denola, when you're building relationships that you're in the right rooms? Like, how important is it that you're in the right circles, you're in the right rooms? Because you can't really even build a relationship if you're not in the right. Can you talk about it? Talk about it as the expert. Yes.
Sure, sure. Yes, it is important to be in the right rooms, but I have found that over the years, I'm kind of a natural nurturer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know about my personality, but I am an introverted extrovert.
Really?
And yes, I am first of all an introvert. And so I have had to work at being an extrovert. And so I make sure that when my extrovertism comes out, it's because I'm in the right rooms with the right people. And that's when I make it count.
Wow, that is really deep. So, and see, you're also like disc certified, so you can really break down this personality thing. So, do you think, Denola, that building the right relationships starts with understanding who you are first? Can you talk about,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
talk about,
always talk about self-assessing first. You
mm,
have to know who you are
yeah.
in order to then figure out how to talk to others or even how to adjust if you are different from other people. So it's very important to, first of all, self-reflect, look at yourself. And if you can't self-reflect, get feedback from others so that they can provide you with what they see, and then you can make a change, a difference, and impact.
Wow, I want to go deep. So first of all, I'm glad that you said that, Denola, because I come across so many people who they tend to fall out with people easily and they don't know why, right? And sometimes that's about just not really understanding who you are. And can we talk about this, Denola? Who you were 5 years ago, 2 years ago might not be who you are today. Can you talk for a minute? And we're going to go deep on relationship building, but I feel like relationship building starts with self, right? So can you talk about how often do we need to continue to self-assess and understand who we need to meet and how to be like, let's get into it. Let's talk about this self-discovery journey for a minute and self-assessing.
Yeah, I definitely had to do that in my career. As you stated, I
Mhm.
started my career as a scientist.
Mhm.
The opportunities that I had while I was in school
Yeah.
continued to lead me in the scientist. My mother was a nurse, and so I knew I would probably be in some kind of healthcare.
Mhm.
But when I did my master's degree, I was able to do a lot of research, which led me to the career in science. And that stereotypical science prototype is, put your head down, you're in the microscope, you're doing the work, and you don't really socialize.
Yeah.
And so I had to reflect because I knew that deep down in me, I had the need to be around people. Even
Wow.
though I was an introvert, I still wanted to be around people and interact with others. And so I had to reflect and say, am I in the right career?
Mhm.
And what ended up happening was, even in my science career, the things that I got involved with made me be around people. Like, oh, we need to have the United Way program. Oh, let's let Denola head that up. Oh, yes, it really was important for me to realize that I had some pieces that needed to be interacting with others.
This is really good. So, Denola, I want to go deep. I want to break this down a little bit. Like, the reason why we have you on today's show is because you probably are better than anyone I've ever seen on like building relationships. People always say Denola doesn't meet a stranger, right? Right, Denola, I'm sure you've heard that. You go somewhere and women want to connect with you and people want to talk to you, but what is relationship building to you? Like, what does that mean? Like, people will talk about networking and relationship development and building partnerships, but can you define like what does that mean to you, and also do you need to have boundaries in this? Is you can talk about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, you need to have boundaries, but relationship building to me is more than just saying, um, here's my stuff, let me sell it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more than me trying to get something from somebody else. It's about how we can have a reciprocal relationship, how we can gain from each other, how we can grow with each other.
Yeah.
And yes, but you need to have boundaries. You need to be able to say, yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
Or but actually the first book that I wrote was called If You Really Knew Me. And so
Oh.
it really is about what you feel comfortable sharing with others,
Mhm.
because what you feel comfortable sharing with others, they will feel comfortable sharing back. And so
Ah.
if you really knew me, then you would know how much I'm willing to go, and then they can feel comfortable to also go that far.
Very interesting. So I now want to like talk about relationship building and building partnerships, Denola, as it relates to business. I don't know about you, but there's so many times that I hear these business owners say, I just don't have time, right? I don't have time. I'm so laser focused on my business. I don't have time for no new friends. I don't need to meet any new people. I'm completely focused on getting customers, right? Have you heard that too? Like, I don't have time to
Absolutely.
go
Absolutely.
somewhere, yeah, or I don't need to meet another person. And I do want you to talk about it, but I want to say firsthand, I'm afraid that I probably myself, when I was new in business, had a mindset at first like, hey, nobody else can help me, it's just straight to the customer. And then I found out how I was totally wrong. I found out that through people and tapping into other people's networks, I was able to get further faster. Can you talk first of all about what do you say to that business owner who's like, I don't need to go out and network. I don't need to meet more people. I just need to sell something. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think it needs to be networking with a purpose. It can't just be networking to get to know people and rub elbows with the right people. It's not about rubbing the elbows. It's about what can you do for and with each other.
Yes. Yes. That is so
Yeah.
good. That is so good. So, Danola, I once went to a networking gathering, and one of the things that I learned early on is they were saying, in addition to telling people who you are, what you do, also tell them at the end what you want. What are you looking for? What do you want to happen right now? What do you
Right.
want of this group? Right. When have you seen networking in relationship building go left, like go wrong? Do you have any stories or where you've seen it not work out so well? And what was the lesson? I'm so curious because you're such a connector.
One of the places that I see it go wrong a lot of times is on LinkedIn, for example. Now,
Oh,
these are not in-person relationships, but the person that turns me off on
yes,
LinkedIn
yes.
is the person who immediately will request a connection.
Mm,
And the first thing that they do is say, here's how you can buy something from me.
yep.
Here's what you can get from me. Here's what I need to sell to you. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not interested.
yeah, yeah.
First, let's establish a relationship. Let's see if there are congruencies and things that we can work on together, but not starting out by saying, here's what you can buy from me. Please connect.
Wow. And you know what? It's funny. And I feel like it's gotten worse, hasn't it, on
It
LinkedIn? Like
has.
it's gotten worse. And now just so you know how I roll, I will just straight up block you. Like if you start as a connection, as a connection request and by the way, I'm much more leery with who I let in. I don't know if you're like this now
Exactly.
too.
I am too.
Yeah, but if I let you in and on the same day you have this long bio with the link, I'm so turned off. And sometimes depending on how when you catch me, I'm just like block next, or I'll say no, thank you, right? And I can't stand,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, let's talk about it though. That's because relationship is not about selling, right? So how do you build
Exactly.
trust? How do you do it, Denola? I want to know from the mind of the greats. You have a knack. You have a real knack for I see that you lean in, you listen, you understand what that woman or man, what somebody is like really wanting at that moment, and you're very good. You seem to be very good at helping them meet the need of right now. Can you talk about what works for you? How are you getting it right? What's the secrets of good networking and good relationship building?
I think you mentioned one of them, and that is listening.
Yeah.
There are so many times when you are talking with people and you can tell that the other person is thinking about what they're going to say rather than actually listening to what the conversation is. And so, I always go back to the everyone communicates, but few connect. And so it's
Mm,
the connection piece. And so
yeah.
you can't just communicate for the sake of communicating. You have to be able to understand that there is a connection. Find out what that connection is, but it starts with the listening piece. And before you ever start to jump in and give your story, make sure you've heard that person's story and then give them an opportunity to say, now, let me hear from you.
Yeah.
Make it a reciprocal.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I just want to talk about the power of connection for a second and Denola, your role in it, because you personally have been solely responsible for bringing powerful women to Queen City Women in Business. I remember when we were hiring, we were starting out hiring, and we understood the HR role, we understood the job description, but what we did not even think about as a new employer is once we were bringing people on, oh my gosh, we need to do background screenings. Oh my gosh, like it was like kind of an afterthought, because you're not used to hiring yet. And I remember putting it out there that quickly we needed a background screening company, and I just remember you, like always, you have this gift for knowing how to identify a need for someone else. And I don't think we talk about that because
Yeah.
I feel like that's a special aspect of relationship building. It's like, yes, listening is important and understanding what a person does, but your mind works differently, Denola, where you have this uncanny ability to see or spot a need and then quickly pair it with someone who does it. And I remember within like hours, I feel like, of putting up that post, I got a text from you and you were like, hey, I met somebody, and you were asking questions and you connected. Let's talk about that for a second, because I don't know if that's coming from your HR background, where maybe you did recruiting or you did, but you tend to be really good about filling a need. Can we talk about how do you do that? Is that an art and a science?
Yeah.
What goes into that? Feeling the
I
need.
don't know that it's an art and a science, but I never recruited in my HR career. So
Really?
that was not it. I think it comes back to the listening and the fact that I feel like I am a natural nurturer. And
Yeah.
so when I am talking with people, I am listening for how I can provide them with what they're doing, what they're needing, what they're doing. And so in that particular situation, I had met this young lady at another event. The two of us were vending next to each other, and we struck up that conversation about what she did. And, being a female Black-owned business with a very unique business idea and implementation, it stuck in my mind. And so when you mentioned that, it was like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
sounds perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it comes back to the listening for those things. And and people do the same thing for me. I think as I have looked back over my career in business,
Mhm.
the majority of my business has come from referrals. And I think it's because we've established those relationships. And it's not just people referring to me, I'm referring them as well.
Wow, I love that. So it's almost like listening with the intent, right? Some people listen, right? And then I feel like some people listen with the intent to provide a solution. Like I'm listening to
Yes.
you, and I think you and I kind of have that in common too, because I'm the same way. Like when people are sharing something with me, I think where my value comes in, and it's the same with you. It's like you almost always have a solution. Like you listen very well with the intent to make it right or to help them achieve that goal. So very interesting. Okay, so I want to talk about you talked a little bit about those introverts, right? People who they're not like Dawn Nicole, where I am over the top, I am theater, I am high energy all the time, but you have a ton of people who are introverts and
Yes.
yet they have to figure out what networking looks like for them. What how do you help them navigate that? What tips do you have for the introverts who yeah, what does that look like in your opinion, and what tips do you have?
Yeah, so for me, especially if it's a specific networking event, if I know I'm going to an event, it's titled as networking. I am always going to take a buddy.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a fellow entrepreneur, somebody who both of us can get some value, because it's easier for two people to walk up to someone than for me to just walk around the room and start talking to people.
Yeah.
And so when I have a buddy, I have somebody that I already know. So I'm never alone. And I'm not standing around looking like, oh my gosh, I wish somebody would come and talk to me. So
Yeah.
if I have a buddy, then that always makes it a little more comfortable. And then, she may know somebody there, or I may know somebody there. And so we can take turns introducing each other to people. Or if we don't know anybody there, we can together go up and start talking to people.
I love that. Okay, so first of all, you heard it here first. Danilo is talking about bringing a buddy. Step one is bringing a buddy. I think that's perfect advice, and I don't even know why I never thought of it. First, I guess because I'm just such a go go go. I just I need to work on that. But I love that. I love that. So bringing a buddy, which by the way does something for your buddy too, right? Because your buddy gets to make the
Exactly.
introduction. So it's like a win-win-win.
Right.
That makes sense. So then, wow, Denola. So then what? So outside of bringing a buddy, you have a person who is introverted. What else can we tell them? I know one thing I'll share with you that I had to learn, that I shared with my other introverted friends, is when you're networking and you're at a function, the goal is not to necessarily meet everybody. The goal is
No,
like you're not trying, and it's funny because when I first started, I didn't really know what networking was. I knew how to talk to people, but I did not realize this was like an official function, right? And
sure.
I think with networking, it's not designed for you to go speak to everybody in the room, right? If you're doing that, you're probably doing it wrong. But
Right.
instead, what is your advice? Is it about knowing before you go, Denola, who the right people are for you? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. So have a plan. You
Yeah.
need to go with a plan. What is the purpose of this networking event? Is it a specific topic? Is it a specific group of people? And if it is, an organization that you're familiar with, maybe you've never been to one of their events before, or if it's a specific topic, whatever in your field, um, have a plan for what you're looking for. And when you start talking to people, maybe you don't know anybody there, but when
Yeah.
you have a conversation with the first person that you end up talking to, ask them about what your plan is. So, oh, I came
Mhm.
here intending to do X, Y, and Z. Do
Yeah.
you know anybody here that does X, Y, or Z that I might be able to learn from, talk to, or meet? And
You
so
know,
I think it is having that plan.
you raised a really good point, Denola. And I totally didn't tie this together, but now I will. So I will just make a shameless plug. Denola is not only a VIP member with QCWIB, not only an ambassador, but she is a certified supplier consultant at CSC. Woo! And I bring that up because one of the underrated services that are so important that I know you all offer as CSCs are an event strategy. And most people be like,
Yes.
why do I need an event strategy? And I'll tell you why. If you've just been going to events as a business owner for years and you just walk away with a whole bunch of cards and that's all you have, right? And you don't have any follow-ups, you don't have a strategy, something's wrong, especially if you don't have conversion. Denola, can we shift the conversation a little bit about the importance of an event strategy in the way that we teach it as CSCs and how that dovetails into good relationship building? I can kind of set it up or you can talk about it, but I
No,
know, yeah, we talk
yeah,
about this a lot, especially with our big summit coming up. Can you talk about
absolutely.
just
It
the
is
importance of it?
so important to having that strategy. In fact, one of the things that being a certified suppliers consultant has done for me is all the things that we are working for you guys with, I'm doing for my own business.
Yes.
And so putting my own event strategy in place has been amazing to really think about who is it that I need to talk to when I get to this event. I'm coming from Indianapolis.
Yes.
I'm not coming to Indianapolis to just sit there and say, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
No, you need to have a plan. So, who are the people or the organizations that I need to talk to in order to make this worthwhile? What kinds of things do I need to bring in order to demonstrate that I'm ready to do business with corporate entities that will be there? So, really putting that in place is going to be critical to success at an event, whether it is a local event with, 50 people or whether it's a huge conference. You
Yeah.
need to have a strategy for that.
I love that. And shameless plug, if you have no idea what we're talking about, but you want an event strategy, Denola's information is in the description below. Make sure that you click the link, you schedule some time with Denola because she can help you. And I'll give you a quick hint. A good event strategy, you all, and Denola knows this, is about what you do before, what you do during, and what you do after the event. And it's all
Exactly.
strategic. So awesome,
It's
awesome.
all strategic.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about this. There's so many pieces and aspects of this, Tanola. I've seen us get it right before when it comes to like relationship building, and I've seen us get it wrong. I want to talk a little bit, first of all, about getting it right, and the power. And if I can, I'm going to share a story just as we talk through it. So, there are a lot of people who don't understand the power of getting out there, building a network. They think it's a waste of time. Let me tell you something because I stepped out one day in October 2023, I would meet who I didn't know at the time was Taja Graham. A lot
Mhm.
of people, and then the reason why Taja Graham is significant to the story is because that's how I know Denola. And the reason I know Denola is because Queen City Women in Business, during its infancy stage, we thought we were going to be some small local connecting women in business to major corporations. And I went to an event, Denola, and what happened is I sat next to Taja Graham and we didn't know each other. We were sitting next to each other at a table at some random business event when all of a sudden the MC instructed us turn to your left, turn to your right, and introduce yourself, right? And Lord knows I had no idea that that small action would change the trajectory of the rest
Mhm.
of my life. Do you guys know I was talking to my future chapter president of Indiana
Yes.
that this stranger at the time was going to help me grow this business nationwide, get into doors I could not get into. And it's all because I showed up. And this is what happened next, Janola. When I turned this way, because she was sitting on this side and we started talking, right? once I was sharing the vision. So what do? I shared it. I don't even think she shared what TMG does, which is her actual
For
business.
business. Mhm.
Yeah, I shared what it is I did, and we started saying, oh my God. And I forgot about the person on this side. I can't even tell you who it was. I don't even know. We talked so intensely that people were like, excuse me, I'm a realtor. I was like, yeah. And we didn't care. We just spent the rest of we talked so much. We were so disruptive that we had to get up and go outside in the hallway and finish, right? Because at this point the keynote was speaking and we were like, oh my God. And Taja was like, we've got to bring this to Indiana. And I was like, I don't know about that. We just started. She was like, no, we're bringing this to Indiana. I was like, okay, I don't know how, but we'll do it. And it was the most intense, best
Mhm.
thing ever. Zanola,
Mhm.
that moment would have never happened. I wouldn't be here now with you. All the things that happened wouldn't have happened if I just didn't step out on faith and show up.
Yes,
Can you talk about
absolutely.
the power, especially to your business, of sometimes just stepping out on faith and just showing up, even before you know what it's going to look like? Just show up. Oh, talk about it. I'm getting excited. Talk about it.
I mean,
Yeah.
that same kind of thing has happened with me. I mean, just since I've joined the Queen City. I mean, no, I hadn't heard of Queen City Women in Business. Of course, nobody had in Indiana until May of last year. And, I knew Taja from way back and
Yeah.
decided to attend the suppliers workshop, but I was like, okay, I'll go see. And I mean, I joined that day. I was so
Yeah.
mesmerized.
Yeah.
There have been relationships that have been established through Queen City that have changed also my trajectory of my business. I mean,
Wow.
my business has been, I've been doing well in my business the last 7 years. It's been going really well, but it has been going so much better since I have been a part of this organization. And it's about the relationship. So, I break down what this organization has done for me in kind of three things. This the education, the relationships, and the getting the business. So those are the three for me.
Wow.
And each one of those, I have examples where it has made a difference in my business. I mean, even the education piece of it, which, that's not relationship based, but if I had not come in contact with Queen City Women in Business, I would not have learned some things
Yeah.
that helped me understand the value of the certification, for example. And the matchmaking event that I first went to,
Yeah.
the business that was there, we match with the suppliers with a business. And the first thing she told me was, "Oh my gosh, I know we could use your business, but you're not certified with the state."
Oh, oh
And
my.
I was like, well, that won't be too long before that will happen.
Yeah.
And so I was ecstatic to know that other people, because I've been working with nonprofits and the other small businesses, but now I have the ability to spread my wings because of that certification that I have now obtained.
Wow.
And and so that's the education piece, but the relationships, some of the people that I have interacted with have been new relationships, but some of them have been relationships that have rekindled, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
And one of those specific relationships, I'm just excited that she never really understood the work that I did until I actually brought her into Queen City Women in Business and we began to learn together. And as she learned more about the work that I actually did, she referred me to a client and I got the bid.
You
I
guys,
got the
listen,
bid.
I get excited. You see, okay, as a CEO and founder, this is my why. Like these stories that Denola is telling, like I still light up. This is how I know I still got that fire for this because every time I hear a success story, I go wildly crazy. My husband's always like, "What's wrong with you? You over there celebrating." But I love to see women win. I love to see it, Denola, because and I love that you're so. By the way, thank you for sharing that story. But it means so much to me. We have so much talent. I'm just going to go to the core for a second. We have so much talent, right? Like I'm surrounded by smart women, driven women, all of you, you all have your own dreams, your own vision, and I
Exactly.
admire it, right? I admire it so much. But there are things you want to do, and sometimes the right people don't know that you exist. It's just you need to be in the
Exactly.
right rooms, right? And that's why
That's
we
right.
built,
That's right.
yeah, and that's why we built Queen City Women in Business. So when I hear you talk about I had to rekindle it, and I want to go there too, like, is there value in rekindling? Like you've got these cutoff people, right? We're in a culture now. What is it called? Cancel culture, right? Where you
Cancel
cut people off,
culture.
you cancel them fast. Let's talk about the value though for a second of that second time around. Second time
Time
around.
around, it's better than the first time.
Right, and it's a thing, it's a thing, it's relearning, it's reintroducing yourself in your new season. Let's talk about
Exactly.
that. How powerful is that? How necessary?
It's it's so powerful because she knew me when I was a scientist and
Mm,
in HR, but she didn't
mm,
know me
mm,
as an entrepreneur and business owner.
mm.
So she didn't understand what I was doing. But the work that she does is different from mine, but she had a client that needed my work.
Oh, this is good.
And so, yes, it's very important, especially if we go through phases or changes or
Yeah,
pivots in our
yeah,
life.
yeah,
And so, as we pivot, yes, we may need to think about who is it in our past that could have been valuable, but maybe not at that particular moment,
yeah, yeah.
or who could I provide value to now that
Mm.
I might not have had that value in the past. So it
Okay,
works both ways.
okay, we're so you know you got me riled up here now, Denola. So we're getting ready to have a deeper conversation because just like there are some relationships and some partnerships that are worth rekindling, there
Hmm.
are some relationships and partnerships that you should have cut off a long time ago.
Yep.
And we're getting ready to
Hmm.
talk about it. We're getting ready to talk
Exactly.
about how it is really stopping your growth, right? It is in the way of your blessing. It is in the way of your
Yes.
success. And so
Yes.
you just made me want to talk about something here. So I'm going to start off with the story, and I want to know if you've been through this too. So
Okay.
I'm not going to name names, but we need some wine. It's time for us to have some girlfriend
We'll
conversation.
pretend. I'll
Yeah,
pretend.
I'll pretend to. Yeah. So I had a situation, Denola, because you said something that just spoke to my heart. You said she knew me when I was X. And I'm grateful that in this particular situation, that friend, this young lady was able to see you for who you had become. But now I want to talk about when people refuse to see who you've become because they are dead set on keeping you where
In that
they've met.
box.
Yep, in that box. I had a situation, and people who know, Dawn Nicole, the person, my heart hasn't changed, but I've changed a lot of titles because it was called Figuring It Out. And I was like most people, where you're talented, you're driven, you're good at many things, but you got to figure out that why. And sometimes to figure out that why and the what does it look like? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Right? I went through several iterations and people saw that. People on the outside would probably check back on my LinkedIn to see if I failed yet.
Mm-hmm.
They would check
Mm-hmm.
back. Yeah, she doing. Yep. To the point, someone even made a post. You keep changing your title. You keep. That's because I was trying to become who I was trying to become. And
Yeah.
sometimes people don't understand, but as long as you understand that you're growing, you're evolving. And so what happened for me is I had two girlfriends that was around through it all, right? And I'm the type of girlfriend that I allow people. I'm telling you, I'm a very forgiving, accepting. I allow you to become who you need to become. And I don't judge, right? Whether you lose weight, you gain weight, you go into France, you do, I let you, yeah, I'm here for it. That's the type of friend I am. I had no idea at the time, Denola, that these two friends were wondering the whole time, who is she today? And they even did an intervention, now that I think about it, that I didn't realize was an intervention. There was an intervention of, when I go back, I realized I think that was an intervention when they were like, do you think you need a manager? And I was like, no, for what? And I was, so anyway, my point is this: once I finally became successful, right? And so I went on a journey and they witnessed it. And this is the problem with people witnessing your change. Once I became successful, I one day hit a groove. One day I got it right. Oh, Dana, I need
Mhm.
you to feel me. I'm about to pour my heart out.
Absolutely.
One day I got it right after getting it wrong so many times. And oh my God, it's making me
Hmm.
emotional because I figured it out. I lost some things along the way, but I never gave up. I never gave
Yeah.
up, Danola. I kept showing up, even when it looked like I failed publicly, whatever it was, right? I kept showing up, even when they probably laughed and talked. I kept going. And so when I got it right, these friends were so used to me getting it wrong that
Hmm.
they had nothing else to occupy their time with,
Hmm.
right? And they
Hmm.
almost needed me to be wronged on so that they could have, right? But once I got it right, I remember the day so clearly. We had met up again. It had like a friend group, and I was on top. My energy was different. I was excited. I had a new light in my eyes. I knew who I was. It was actually even since I had started Queen City Women in Business. I was in my first 6 months. And I assumed that they could see I was successful now, like things were happening for me, right? Well, at that meeting, and by the way, where I'm going with this is that was the last time I saw them. uh, but at this meeting, I remember as we were leaving, one of them said, Donna Cole, let's talk about you. And I said, yes, let's talk about me. And I thought it was going to be, like,
Yeah.
yes, flowers, give me my flowers.
Yeah. Pat me on the back. Yeah.
And they said, if you could ever figure out what you want to do, you're going to be very successful one day. And Denola, I sat there because I was successful now.
Right.
That day had
Right.
came. What are you
Right.
saying? And I remember saying, "Excuse me? I'm sick. What are you?" And I remember I was very offended. I felt a little bit attacked, probably. And I realized, is it that you don't see or you just
Yeah.
refuse to see?
Refuse to see.
And
Refuse to
that's
see.
that's when I knew,
Yeah.
okay, I've overstayed my welcome. It's time to go.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to just share that story because I wonder how many other women out there are standing idly by, being judged by friends who are no longer their friends. It's time to change their peer circle. It's time, right? Can you
Hmm.
talk about
Hmm.
that aspect of outgrowing the relationship? Talk about it,
Yeah.
Denola. I'm gonna sip
It's
on some.
so, well, but it's so important to understand when it is that time,
Mm,
because you don't want to just uh, have friends just to say you have friends.
right, right, right.
And so I have thought out throughout my career that, I don't need people that are going to be pulling me back down, like
Mm.
the crab
Yeah,
trying to
crabbing.
get up.
Yeah.
I don't need that. And
Mm,
so I oftentimes have said, I don't need to continue this. And I don't even need to announce it to them that we're not
mm,
continuing it. But the thing that's interesting about it is when you say no to someone like that,
mhm.
and you never hear from them again,
Mm.
that wasn't really a relationship anyway. They weren't
Yes,
needed in your life.
yes, yes.
They weren't needed. And so realizing when that occurs is very important, because you don't want people to just continually be pulling you back down. I can remember a time when uh, friend, what wasn't a friend, it was a
Yeah,
colleague
yeah.
said to me, how do you keep getting ahead, or how do you keep getting these opportunities? And I said, for all the people that are naysayers and not interested in what I'm doing, or not supporting me in what I'm doing, I said, I've got double of that want to see me succeed.
Come on.
And so we have to find those who want to see you succeed.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's where a part of this networking comes in, because that's where you can find the right group of people, which is what I feel I have found in
yeah.
the Queen City Women in Business. I mean, I have been a part of a lot of networking organizations. And yes, they have networking, but to what end?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the question, is to what end? What is the result that is going to come out of the relationships, the connections that you're going to have? And if you can identify what those outcomes are,
Mhm.
then you can feel like, yes, this is either a person, an organization that I want to be a part of.
I love that. Oh my gosh. That was so therapeutic. Sometimes just talking through that is so good, Denola. And so really the lesson here before we go to the next thing is both understanding when it's time to reintroduce yourself to the right circle,
Mm-hmm.
to say, I've
Mm-hmm.
changed and let me tell you how I add value today.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like it went really well with this story you were
This
sharing,
one's, mm-hmm.
but
Yes.
also understanding when you've outgrown the circle and it's time to cut that
Move
relationship with
on.
never.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
good.
it's time to move on.
Yeah. Okay, so as we come to a close, I want to talk a little bit about relationship building strategies, and I'll kind of spearhead. It's a question, but I'd like to start just with something to think about. One thing that I had to learn, Janola, is that relationships are relational, they're not transactional, right? Like
Right.
things are
Mm-hmm.
transactional, but people, it has to be about the relationship. And one thing that I share when I can is recently, I won't say the name of the brand because I don't have permission to say their name, but there's a huge global home improvement brand. I'm just going to start here, Denola. And as a woman-owned business, I'm like many of you all, where you spend time trying to like work a lead or develop a relationship, and you kind of make a decision on, you make a decision pretty quickly on if this is worth it. Like if you're not getting a response, if you're not getting the result, you might be inclined to say, I was a waste of, after 3 meetings and I'm
Yeah.
done, 3 and done, right? Or but something happened for me last year that needed to happen, that was eye-opening. It was a game changer. And what happened for me is I realized that the way you develop relationships with small businesses, like, is a little
Mm-hmm.
bit different than how you develop a relationship with a major big box brand. And I want to talk about that to see if
Sure,
it's been
sure.
your experience too. So with this big home improvement brand, I remember it took me a year to close this deal. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because most people would have given up. They would have
Giving
been
up by
like,
then. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, they would have been like, they wasted my time. But the best thing that ever happened for me is somebody told me the bigger the deal, the longer it could take, and hang out. If it's a mammoth, if it's a hang out, do what you got to do to win it, right? So I'm mentioning this because with me, I was introduced to this group, Home Improvement. I met with them in January 2024 for the first time. Denola, do you know every single month, like clockwork? Finally, I was like, let's just put a once a month meeting on the calendar. Let's just check in and talk. It went to like 8, 9 months. Like I was in September of 2024, right? Still talking. Hey, how are y'all? How's everything going? Great, right? And I
Right.
think I reached a point by November. This is a true story. That's why I want to tell it. By November 2024, I had come to this meeting ready to tell them, hey guys, it's been really nice, but I was ready, literally, I promise you, I was ready
Yeah.
at that meeting in November to say, okay, it's been nice. Now, I enjoyed getting to know this group, but nothing,
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, nothing was happening. I didn't know seeds were being sown. I didn't. And here's
Mm-hmm.
what actually happened. On the November meeting, I opened up the call ready to say my piece. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, Donna Cole, if you don't mind, we have some big news to share before you start. And I said, oh,
Okay.
okay. And they said, we just want to thank you, first of all, for being so patient. You've given us a chance over this year to know you, meet you. We've gone to lunch, we did all the things, and we are ready to move forward on the corporate partnership. And I said, and they could see that, like when I went in, they said, wait, that's not it. We also want to put one of your suppliers in our corporate campus, right,
Sure.
for a juice drink, right? I said, wait, that's not it. We also, and Denola, in that moment, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that when they say patience is a virtue, that's what they mean. What if I had cut it
Yeah.
off
Right.
prematurely? Can
Right.
you talk
Right.
about, so can we talk
Yeah.
about timing and transaction versus relationship building and being talk about it, Denola.
Yeah,
Take it.
all of that. It is about the relationship. It's about that connection and the fact that, I mean, they weren't giving you negative vibes. Now,
Mhm.
they may not have been giving you super positive vibes, but it wasn't negative. And so you still had to continue in that relationship building, whereas they were probably doing things behind the scenes that you
Yep.
weren't aware of,
Yep.
but you kept hanging in there. Now, yes, you were at a point where you were like, well, you know what, maybe this is not being fruitful, but you kept working at it
Yeah.
because you saw that there was going to be mutual benefit.
Yeah.
And that's the piece. It's not like you felt like you were giving, 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 and not getting anything back. That's where I think is the difference. If
Yeah.
we continue to give, I mean, I can recall situations where I have met with the client. They would ask for advice. I would give them
Mm.
advice. I would give them some homework. I would talk to them about how I could help and all these things and do this over several months. And then they come back and say, yeah, we did all that work. Now, can you give us some more? No. Oh, that's
Wow.
not establishing a mutual
Yeah.
relationship. That's me giving, me giving, me giving.
Yeah.
And so when you see that there is the potential
Yes.
for a mutual,
Yeah.
that's when you should continue to keep growing. And
Yeah.
at some point, you have to say, no, time out.
Yep.
There's not going to be a mutual benefit here. But
Yeah.
you gauged it
I did.
appropriately. And that's what you have to do. So just like we talked about the self-reflection, you have to also assess the organization, the company, the person, the business, the whatever it might be that you're also trying to work with to determine, is this going to be mutually beneficial? Because it can't just be one person giving all the time.
I love this. Can I? Okay, I keep saying that we got to go, and then you say something, Denola, and you open up Pandora's box, and I'm like, I want to talk about this. I, there's so many things I want to talk about in what you said because you just like triggered so many wonderful things. One thing that I will say, this has to do with boundaries for a second. So I kind of want to talk into the camera. I want everyone to hear me. So I do believe relationship building and relationship development is so important. But I also believe, right, until you actually, if you're in the business where you provide a service, though, right, Danola? I
Yes.
think there should be a clear line, some kind of delineation for that we need to create as the service provider, the woman in business, the business owner, that says, even within my relationship, here are some boundaries. Here's what I'm willing to give.
Here's what I'm willing to
Oh,
give.
that's so good,
Right.
right? Here's what I'm willing to give at no cost that takes nothing from me, that feels right, that
Right.
feeds you and fuels you. And here's where I start to charge. And do you know
Yes.
that was so hard for me, Denola, because I was the type of wife, mother, girlfriend, friend that I just, girl, let me write this down, right? I was very much that, but
Mhm.
then you reach a point where you have to, if this is your business, you have to start to understand what holds value, right? Like how much do you give away and how much do you keep? And the reason I say that, and you also want to be careful not to count people's pockets for them. And what I mean to
Exactly.
go, because I don't know if you've been here and I want to hear your story too, but have you been in a situation where, because I know this has happened to me. I've been in business a long time, so the good, bad, and ugly has happened. I had a situation, Denola, where I had a girlfriend. I had no boundaries. One of my good friends, she's a girlfriend of mine, and she had her own business, and she and her husband was in the theater and film. They were a full-scale casting agency. And those who
Okay.
know me, they know I have a theater and casting background. This is what I did in previous life. And I'm giving, giving, giving. And it never occurred to me to charge her because in my mind, oh, poor little honey, she don't have it. They on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
They just had a baby. So here I am
Mm-hmm.
letting her take me out for sushi and we're hanging out and I'm like, write this down.
You
You
in
know,
it.
yeah, I'm just giving.
Just
And
yes.
then one day, Danola, I'll never forget this. And by the way, I was not doing financially well. I was just coming in, so I could use the money. Okay. I'm being very
Sure.
honest, you guys.
Sure.
And I remember going out to lunch with her as a follow-up. And she said, oh, by the way, thank you for that good advice you gave me. When I went down to Atlanta for my 5-day masterclass, my business advisor coach told me that this is right on. And I said, Ma a master class. Oh, oh, wow. Here I am giving it for free for a sushi dinner. And I said, well, how much was that? She said, it was just 5,000. I said, I don't even have parking money right now. My point is, Danola,
Yeah.
that's what I learned. Girl,
Yep.
you have got
Yep.
to know your worth and your value
You
and
do.
do better. Create boundaries. No, can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. So I'm in a unique situation because I have already had the luxury of being retired.
Yes.
So I've retired, I have a pension,
All the things.
and yeah, all the things, got all the things. And so when I first started my business, people thought
Mm.
I was had a hobby. They thought I had a hobby
Especially because you were retired. You ain't got
because
nothing
I
else
was
to do.
retired. I didn't need the money. I was retired. That's their perception. She doesn't need the money. She's retired.
You got a
She's got all
pension.
the things. She's got a husband taking care of everything, all of that. And so they thought this was my hobby.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I was giving away all this free advice, free advice. Can you help me do this? And can you help me do that? Sure. And I was loving helping them do that,
Yeah. Yeah.
because again, I'm a natural nurturer. So I'm going to nurture you, And so then I got to thinking, wait a minute, I've got to put some price tags on some of this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, here's what I found out. There are some of those
Mm.
who I was sharing freely
Yeah.
that once I began to put the price tag, they
Come on.
disappeared.
Come on,
They
Denola.
disappeared
I could have told you.
because they weren't valuing my worth.
Mm.
And so it is very important to then realize that, we do have value and we do have to set those boundaries early
Yeah.
so that we don't, we're not perceived as a joke. We
Right.
are a real business.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's important to set those boundaries and make sure that people realize that you have value and their value costs money.
Wow. Wow. I love it. Denola, this was so good. I could stay here all day
I
and swap
know, I
stories with you.
know.
This is so good. Listen, for our audience at home, our talks on demand, where can they find you, Denola? Just say it and we'll also drop it in description. Where can people follow you?
Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest way. Denola Burton is how you can find me there. I do have a website. It's developnurtureachieve.com. So that goes along with my business name, Enhanced DNA. And so yeah, yeah, they don't need my email, I guess, but yeah, if you get me on LinkedIn or if you get me on my website, you can see all the things that we do that we charge for.
Yes, yes, thank you. That part. No, Denola, this was so good. I know that our audience at home is got their wine and their notepad and they're enjoying themselves. And I just want to first of all thank our listening audience, Denola. I want to thank you, by the way. This is so good. I can't wait to share this episode with the world. It was so good. And I learned a lot. Like you're just so insightful, and I just love that. So, by the way, if you're listening at home and you enjoyed Talks on Demand, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're a woman-owned business and you're interested in doing bigger business in 2025 and beyond, make sure you go to qcwib.com so you can scale up.
Yes.
And with that said, Denola, we are signing out and signing off and showing up. And thank you so much. All right. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you.